All right, let's talk about teaming the cloud. We're going to dive into a super important part of Microsoft Azure today, governance. We're going to figure out how to manage who can do what and how to get your entire cloud environment organized so it's actually working for you, not against you.
So let me ask you something. Would you ever give a master key to every single person in an office building? Of course not, right? The person who only needs to get into the supply closet, well, they get a key to the supply closet. It sounds like common sense, but you'd be surprised how often this exact mistake happens in the cloud if you're not managing access the right way.
Because when everyone has that master key, you get chaos. It's almost guaranteed. Critical stuff gets deleted by accident, massive security holes just open up, and your costs, they can spiral out of control before you even know it. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how to give people the exact key they need, nothing more, nothing less.
Okay, so where do we even start with all this? Well, it all starts with the most fundamental building block in Azure, the subscription.
A subscription really does two critical jobs. First, you can think of it as a billing container. Every virtual machine, every database you create, it all lives inside a subscription. And that's the bucket where the bill gets tallied. But just as important, it's a security boundary. It's a way for you to draw a really clear line in the sand about who can touch what.
And this is exactly why most companies don't have just one subscription. You might have one for the marketing team and another one for engineering, just to keep the bills separate. Or, and this is super common, you'll create different subscriptions to totally isolate your development, your testing, and your production environments. That separation is absolutely key to staying in control.
But what happens when you have 10, 20, or maybe even hundreds of subscriptions? Trying to manage them one by one is, well, it's a nightmare waiting to happen. And that's where management groups come in to basically save the day.
The easiest way to think about management groups is they're just folders. Simple as that. But they're incredibly powerful folders for your subscriptions. So instead of applying a security setting to 10 different subscriptions one at a time, you just pop them all into one management group and apply the setting once. Boom, you're done. It's all about managing things efficiently at scale.
This slide right here, this lays out the entire Azure hierarchy. And what you'll notice is how everything just flows downhill. At the very top, you've got the root management group for your whole organization. Any rule you apply there cascades all the way down through your other management groups, into your subscriptions, into the resource groups inside them, and finally down to every single resource.
So, we've got our house in order. Our resources are all neatly organized. But now, how do we control who actually gets in the door? This brings us to a really key concept, RBAC, or Role-Based Access Control. Think of RBAC as the official rulebook for your Azure world. Instead of just handing over the full admin keys to someone who only needs to restart a server, RBAC lets you give them only that one permission for that one specific task. It's all about being precise. And this whole thing is built on one of the most important ideas in all of security, the principle of least privilege. It's a simple concept, really. It just means that people should only have the absolute minimum permissions they need to do their job. If all someone needs to do is read data, they should never, ever have the permission to delete it. It's simple, it's effective, and it's how you build a secure system.
So how does RBAC actually work in practice? Well, it's all about assigning roles, which are really just prepackaged collections of permissions designed for common jobs.
Now, Azure has hundreds of these built-in roles, but honestly, these three are the big ones, the ones you have to know. Take a look at the table. The owner role, that's the master key. They can manage resources and they can grant access to other people. Now look at contributor. They can also manage resources, but see that big X in the second column? They cannot give access to anyone else. That is the critical difference. And a reader? Well, they're like window shoppers. They can look, but they definitely can't touch.
But, what happens when these standard, off-the-shelf roles just don't quite fit? Maybe you have someone on your team whose only job is to create support tickets, but they shouldn't be able to do anything else. None of the built-in roles are quite that specific. And that's where the real power comes in. You just create your own custom roles. You can get incredibly granular and handpick the exact permissions needed for any unique job in your company.
When you build one of these custom roles, you're really defining it with three key parts. Actions are all the things the role is allowed to do. That's the green light. Not actions are just as important. These are things the role is explicitly blocked from doing. That's the hard red light. And finally, assignable scopes defines where this new custom key can even be used, so you can control it and make sure it's not assigned where it doesn't belong.
Okay, deep breath. We've got our hierarchy with management groups. We've got our rules with RBAC. Now let's put it all together and see how we actually apply, and maybe more importantly, track all of these permissions.
Permissions in Azure are always assigned at a specific scope. And all scope really means is, where are you applying the permission? At what level of that hierarchy we saw earlier? You can assign a role to a whole management group, to just one subscription, or you can get as granular as a single individual resource.
And this right here illustrates the golden rule, inheritance. See how that big arrow is pointing down? That's because permissions always flow down. If you make someone a contributor at the subscription level, they are automatically a contributor for every single resource group and every single resource inside of it. This is what makes managing permissions at a large scale even possible.
Now, with all these permissions being assigned and inherited and flowing all over the place, you might be thinking, how on earth do I keep track of all this? It sounds like a mess, right? Well, the good news is there's just one single place you need to look.
And that one single source of truth is the Azure Activity Log. You can think of it as the non-stop 24/7 security camera for your entire environment. Every single time a role is assigned or changed or taken away, boom, it gets logged right here. This gives you a complete, undeniable audit trail, which is absolutely essential for both security and compliance.
So, let's bring it all home. Setting up your subscriptions, your management groups, and your RBAC roles, that's like being a master locksmith for your building. You've designed the perfect lock system and you've handed out all the right keys. But that's only half the battle. The real ongoing job is to constantly watch who is using those keys, because the question isn't just who has access, it's who's watching the doors.
Welcome back to our Azure Administration series. Today we'll covering Lab 2, Managing Subscription and RBAC. So we are going to do 4 tasks. Very first one is implement management groups. Second one is review and assign a built-in Azure role. And third one is create a custom RBAC role. And fourth one is monitor that one. So in our case, lab scenario, just think that simplify Azure resource management by organizing subscription into management groups and granting the help desk team here as an example is specific permission to create support request and manage virtual machine across all subscription. So first let's understand what is actually management groups are. So management groups, you can think a container that helps you organize multiple Azure subscription. Think of it as a folder structure for your subscription. It allows you to apply governance at scale. Any RBAC roles or policies assigned to a management group automatically inherit to all subscription within it. So let's go through from the console, then you will get more understanding on that one. So here I have already connected to Azure Portal. Then go to Microsoft Enter ID. If you don't see front, you can just search here and go there. Then in the Manage Blade, and go down and select the properties. And if you look here, you can see that it has got access management for Azure resources. So it's saying that these users that I'm connected can manage access to all Azure subscription and management groups in this tenant. So that means compliance, what I'm saying, governance in place. So now let's create a management group. So for that, if I go back, you can search here for management group. click on create. Normally, you know that you will see that for your tenant or whatever, like for any customer, if I say, and there is a root management group which is built in to into the hierarchy to have all management groups and subscription fold up to it. And this root management group allows you for global policies and Azure rule assignment to the applied at the directory level. So now let's create a management group. Select this create button. Give a management group ID. Must be unique. Into the directory. And then give a display name. Then click on submit. Click refresh. It's in progress. So you can see that management group has been created. Now let's assign a built-in role. So for that, select this management group. And select on access control IAM. Then select roles. So if you see here, you will see that there is a built-in roles. So what is what are all these built-in roles? It's actually predefined sets of permissions created by Microsoft. There are over hundreds built-in roles available, which actually covers common scenarios like owner, contributor, reader. And why actually we need this one? Because it's saving time. No need to create roles from scratch. And all these roles Microsoft also updated regularly. And for any specific role, if you just select view options, you can see that there are three options there with like permissions, JSON, and assignment. So permissions tab actually shows you that specific action that role can perform. For example, I can say like for if I say for VM, like it can create VM, delete VM, or read VM, those type of properties. And JSON is a kind of technical definition of the role. It shows like action, not actions, data actions, and assignable scope also. And this is what Azure actually use to enforce permissions. And assignment tab, it shows currently who has these roles and what scope has these roles. Now, common built-in roles are mainly these three: owner, contributor, and reader. Now, to assign a role, what we need to do, if you see that add button, under add there is a add role assignment. Select add role assignment. Now let's look for a role, virtual machine. So you can see that there is a role that I am going to assign for HR, that is virtual machine contributor. And select next. And to assign this role, we need to select the member. So select that member. And here I am going to select for IT help desk. Select and select. Then you have selected members, select next. You can put like conditions. If I put add conditions, you can see that there are different actions that you can add here, but for now I'm going to discard that one. Then assignment type, you can also select like time bound. Then review and assign, select that one. Added role assignment. So IT Desk Help now has that role assignment. So now if I go to like a role assignment section and check for IT help desk, you can see that virtual machine contributor. So role has been assigned. So now we are going to do a custom role back access control. So for that, here is that the add options, but I'm already in that management group. That is the first thing. Then going to add, and down below add custom role. So why we need to create a custom roles? So built-in roles might grant too many permissions, but there can be some cases where we need specific level permissions or minimum level permissions, or have a specific requirements. Or there can be unique scenarios like uh, we want help desk to create a support ticket but not register resource providers. So for a specific case, we normally go for that custom rollback access control or RBAC. So now here, give a custom role name. You can give a description. Now from baseline permissions, you can see choose whether you want to create your custom role by cloning and then modifying. So let's first we are doing that cloning a role, and role to clone, that which type of role we would like to clone, we can select from here. So we are going to select like support request contributor role, select that one. So we have cloned that one. Now select next. Now here is the permissions. There is a add permission, there is a exclude permissions. So from this role we would like to, because first we clone the role, now we would like to filter with those some permission we don't want to grant. So that for exclude permissions, and here search for support. Let's look for dot support, and here you see that Microsoft dot support. So select that one. So now here are different Microsoft related support, but we don't want one thing like to register support resource provider. So select that one and click add. So now we have added that one, but if you see here, that is permission type is still like here you can say that not action. So now click next. Here you need to make sure that your management group that you created, it's there. Click next. Here you can see the JSON option, like action, not action. Let me zoom out. Data action, no data actions, also like assignable scopes values. Then you can do review and create. Click create. We have successfully created the custom role. It may take the system a few minutes to display your role everyone. So wait for a minute, so click OK. So you can see that second role that we have created, it's there now, desktop virtualization contributors. If we select that one, we can see more in details here. So now we'll go through the monitoring role assignment with activity log. So what is actually activity log? Let's go back here. Click on activity log. So activity log records all operations performed on resources. It tracks who did what and when. And by default, retention is 90 days. By default, it's critical for, you can think of like security auditing and troubleshooting. And it tracks both successful and failed operations. And from this screen, like here is a different option. You can like add filter. You can go for resources type operations, so select that operations. And here, like we have created role, so we can just do create role filter. We can get information here. So here we can just use that filter also that we saw. So that's it for this lab. It's always better to clean your lab environment so that it does not incur any additional costs. So for that you can go to resource group and delete that resource group. That's it for this lab. See you in next lab.